Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Tougies Take Podcast. We are back. It is us, the guys, the fellas. Sin is here. Endo is here. I am here. He, she, we are here. And Wumboing. We are back for another edition of what should be a rather interesting podcast with a lot of stuff to talk about. A lot of stuff to talk about in the hockey world. This is my worst intro of all time. I continue to lower the bar, but we push forward. Sin, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I probably left about $2,000 on the table today, so not happy about that. But
you can't say that and not elaborate.
Yeah.
Essentially, earnings report for a certain stock. I had an option on it, sold it at like $200 profit, and it like skyrocketed 30% after hours.
Ooh.
Yeah, it didn't feel too good. But
that is why whenever we talk about the stock market, I'm scared to death to actually do anything.
Well, here's the thing. I didn't lose money. I still made money. I mean, I could have made more, but also, had it gone the other way, I would have lost all of the $1,200 I had. So
fair, but like that's the thing for me with like betting, right? And we're going to talk about the Super Bowl today. But
oh my God,
I had $20 on the Super Bowl in prop bets, and I could have made $220. It wasn't even my $20, and I didn't win, and I'm still mad.
Yeah,
I didn't lose anything.
Don't start
but
trading.
What I could have gained.
I'm going to tell you now. Don't start trading. Yeah, that's that's sometimes it hurts worse than losing money is when you leave money on the table. But I'm to the point now where I know like I'm not a one and done. Like I do this every day. It's a grind for me. It's an income. So it's like, yeah, if I look back on that and like I let myself get too affected by it, then I'm essentially a gambler, and that's not what I am.
Fair. Endo Mills, how are you? How was your weekend, friendo?
Speaking of betting, I had the worst experience of betting. So I spent roughly
you did too.
Yeah, I spent roughly $25 on there. I'm like, oh, I got extra 25. I'll just throw it in there. I spent it on several different things that would have paid out really, really decently if it hit, and not a single fucking one. Not a single dollar I made. I made nothing. I lose. Good day, sir. Yeah, but besides that,
we
I'm
have
doing all
the
right.
worst luck.
Yeah, besides that, I'm doing all right.
I wouldn't even know how to get started in sports betting. Like you guys talk about it, like that's not my realm at all.
Dude,
it's a
I sat there. I did like an hour and a half worth of research of looking up stats, looking up everything, like whatever you could possibly want to look up, and I'm like, okay, I feel super confident with these 4. I got 1 out of 4. The other 3 were close, and again, we'll move on to viewer questions. Although, of course, before we do that, I want to mention that this podcast is brought to you by our friends at Manscaped. Use code Tougie at checkout for 20% off your order and free worldwide shipping. Check out the Lawnmower 4.0, the Weed Whacker, the best pair of boxers you could possibly buy. All of that and more at Manscaped. Now, I transition that to say, in terms of betting and the Super Bowl, maybe if the goddamn Rams could run the football, and if the Bengals could throw the damn football, I would have won something. Like, the inverse happened, and it's... God.
Right.
Did either of you watch the Soupy Boopy?
Yes, I did.
I watched a little bit of it.
I was feeling a little bit like Simba there. Get up, Joe Burrow. Get up, Joe Burrow. And
I thought you meant when Mufasa just yeets him off the mountain in the meme.
You mean that's Rafiki? Show some respect.
Rafiki.
Put some goddamn respect on that man's name.
Whatever.
That dude was like my favorite character of all time until I was about 10 years old. Anyway, yeah, it was.
And then who did it change to?
Who knows, man? 10, probably someone from Star Wars.
Question from Tougie, favorite Disney character?
Ooh, that's a good one. Now, currently, or of all time?
Yeah. Either. Why not? Favorite Disney character?
Do you have one, Endo? Because this one might take some thinking for me. I've been around the block.
It's been a while since I've really cared about Disney. Not to be the
unbelievable
guy,
favorite Disney character. That's a tough one. Let me tell you my favorite song in any Disney movie. It's "Be Like You" in The Jungle Book. It was sung by this, I forget the guy's name, but he was this old school Vegas entertainer back in the 50s, and he played King Louie, that orangutan monkey king, and that song is a fucking banger. Jazzy, groovy.
It is. I agree. Apparently, Christopher Walken did a cover of it in 2016, and Fall Out Boy also might have done that, according to the Google
He
search.
did. I mean, how did it sound?
God.
I want the
Let's
bay
see.
like yo.
Louis or Louis Prima is
Thank you.
who I'm
Yeah, Louis
finding.
Prima. There it
Yes,
is.
there you go. I will say that's one of my favorite Disney songs. My favorite Disney song, Be a Man from
Yeah,
Or actually, no, we're going to go with
Let's Get Down to Business, or is that different?
yeah.
It is. It is actually.
That's a good song.
Yes. It's the best one. Because every time I say "Let's get down to
Yes,
business," I always
yes.
have to repeat it to defeat the Huns.
I agree. Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
So, anyway, football.
No.
How did that happen?
I found my Disney character just Iago because of Gilbert Gottfried. Just
That's
the,
fair.
just
You
the
know what?
voice.
That's.
Oh, I didn't even name my
Ultimate
favorite
fair.
character. I just
Yeah.
went for the song.
I didn't either. I
Oh,
just,
man.
We're going with Mushu because Eddie Murphy's a legend.
Yeah.
I'm way too indecisive, I think, for this. Shit.
Dude, I am so bad with favorite questions. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, like I would go for like who was my favorite voice actor probably, and I'm trying to think of all. There's been so many good ones in Disney. You know what? Emperor's New Groove. That's probably Cusco because David Spade, the dry humor in that is just flawless. Like that.
Yeah.
That like revitalized me into Disney for a while when I like thought, okay, I'm not a kid anymore. And then I watched that. I was like, holy shit, you know, Disney still has a lot to offer. That's kind of what got me back into it.
So we are done with boomers talk about Disney. You go ahead and enjoy your Moana or whatever the hell you watch nowadays. Damn kids. Super Bowl. First and foremost, game itself, because I feel like that's the least important thing to talk about. The Rams do win the Super Bowl. Seeing Stan Kroenke get the Lombardi Trophy sucks because that guy's a dickhead. Matt Stafford, though, is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He's like 11th all time in passing yards. He has a legitimate shot at making the Hall of Fame. I think it's cool as hell that Matt Stafford won a Super Bowl.
I think it's a great story, and I'm also very entertained that it happened the year after he left the Lions.
Immediately
I know.
leaves the Lions and wins the Super Bowl.
Proof you can't have
How
shit to
brutal is
destroy.
that? How brutal is that for Lions fans? I almost asked Deke Slayer if he could be on the show today to just talk about the fact that you know now, and it's what Lions fans already knew, but now all of us are like, oh yeah, you were right. If they didn't suck, what could they have done with Stafford, Calvin Johnson? Like, just how much did they waste? Oof. Big oof.
I always used to think Stafford's just, you know, kind of mediocre, middle of the line QB, like because he was on that team, and well,
good enough to maybe get like a team to the playoffs,
Yeah.
but not good enough to win a Super Bowl. And then he threw like 50 touchdowns this year, and then wins the Super Bowl.
Insane.
It's insanity. Odell Beckham Jr. as well really stuck it to the Cleveland Browns.
Oh my god!
Holy
yeah.
crap! It's a shame he tore his ACL or whatever in the game.
yeah, that was another tough one
God.
to see.
Aaron Donald, who the broadcast the entire time are calling him like the greatest of all time in his position, and it's kind of difficult to argue looking at the resume. It seems like recency bias, but it is a legitimate argument.
Wait, is he an end or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was like, what about Reggie fucking White? And I'm like, oh yeah,
Well, that's
he's a tackle, wasn't he? I mean, it's been
no,
a while.
he was the defensive
Was he?
end,
Okay.
and that's if I'm not mistaken, and
Must
that's a
be thinking of
name
Sap, then.
that comes up is you'll hear the Reggie Whites of
Okay.
the world and other people along those lines for who's the best ever in this regard. So yeah, it's always a freaking biased conversation. Oh my god, I forgot to turn off my alerts again.
Never
It's going to
learn.
pop up on the video portion
right.
there for a second too. Who gets the shout out on today's episode? It is Fear Vitals. Thank you very much
Your vitals.
for following.
Fear my vitals.
You're going to fear the vitals of people when their eardrums get blown out by that. My apologies. Good Lord. Ridiculous. For the Bengals, the number one topic is like, oh, they'll be back. Don't worry. Man, I don't know. I don't know, because in the AFC, you have Josh Allen, you have Patrick Mahomes, you have Lamar Jackson, you have the best of the bunch, Mac Jones. There is so much competition at quarterback in the AFC. It is insanity. There is a chance that Joe Burrow could be back. Not to mention Justin Herbert, of course, for the Chargers. There is a chance Joe Burrow and the Bengals could be back. But man, for as much as people are like, oh, yeah, well, the Bengals and the Chiefs and new dynasties, and people are like so desperate for there to be new dynasties and to be able to make the Brady comparisons. We have seen how difficult it is to make it back, let alone make it to the Super Bowl in the first place, which is what makes what the Patriots and Tom Brady did so goddamn special, that they were able to do it so consistently. And it's like the media is so used to that that's the only narrative we know how to make right now is, oh, well, they're going to be like the new Patriots. It's going to be great. It's like, no one's going to do that again.
It's crazy. Like, yeah, the bar was set so high. I think what the people need to do is just appreciate it. Let it sit for a while. Like, stop trying to prop up the new one. Let's enjoy, like, because you're right. I mean, we're probably not going to see that. And if we do, I mean, great. But why try to, like, force that narrative and try to, put someone up there? Like, if they're trying to, put Mahomes up to that standard, that could be a lot of too much added pressure on the dude. Like, I thought for sure he was going to go back to the Super Bowl this year with the way things lined up. I'm like, the Bengals. I mean, I was like,
they somehow made the Super Bowl with that defense and that offensive line.
God, I felt bad. Yeah, poor Burrows, man. Get him an offensive line. I think he could be back. But again, it's lightning in a bottle. How many Super Bowls did Aaron Rodgers make? I mean,
one.
He won it. Great, but look how tough it is to get back. And you could
Drew Brees won Super Bowl, if I'm not mistaken.
These are great quarterbacks, like legacies.
Matt Ryan won Super Bowl appearance, if I'm not mistaken. Like, it's insanity.
Yeah.
Like, those three quarterbacks that we just named are three of the best quarterbacks of all time.
What about
I believe
Brett Favre?
Brett Favre. Let's talk about Brett Favre.
The thing about Brett Favre is...
He wears those Wrangler jeans.
When you're sending a dick pic, you got it. You gotta get the angle.
Gotta get the scope.
Now, see, here's a guy where you look in this, and we circle the dong here, and you see that there's the angle. But if you go from the top-down view, you gotta go the under view. Anyway,
we can all tell this man uses Manscaped. Use promo code Tougie.
The art of taking dick pics with John Madden.
Oh, God, I miss John Madden
Talk
so
of the
much.
walk with John Madden.
Oh, God. God damn it. Rest in peace to a legend, John Madden. God damn. In terms of the Super Bowl, talking about the game, it is what it is. Let's be honest. The biggest talking point, aside from the refs, which, let's be honest, the refs always get it wrong. Neither one team was jobbed more than the other. Literally, the Rams gave up a touchdown on the opening drive of the second half because of the worst missed face mask I think I've ever seen. And then, there were some questionable calls on that final drive for the Rams to win it, including that missed false start. But at the end of the day, I think it all kind of came out in the wash. The Rams are the better team. They won the Super Bowl. The halftime show. Endo Mills. We will throw it to you first, because obviously in talking about the Super Bowl itself, you don't give a shit about the football.
Oh, I thought you were throwing it because I'm black.
Well, so is everyone out there. You should have just let it sit and let people make their conclusions, and then Tougie would be racist. It's great.
There you go. Yeah.
God.
Speaking of all that one dude on Twitter, that was hilarious.
Yeah, so I was called a racist by a burner account because I thought that the Super Bowl halftime show was like a 7 or 8
Ladies
out of
and
10.
gentlemen, Prince is not black. Ladies and gentlemen, Prince is not black.
Exactly. So I said that I thought it was like a 7 or 8 out of 10, and that I still thought Prince had the best halftime show ever. And I was deemed a racist, which is hilarious.
And then I quote tweet saying the truth has finally come out.
How like Endo to fan the flames.
Yeah, of course, it's me.
So,
Okay, go on.
again, this halftime show, I didn't mind. Here's my issue with it. Now, I respect, like, what it meant for, like, literally a legend of the genre in Dr. Dre to be leading the charge on this. He paid for most of it. By the way, what's up with that? The past 2 halftime shows, like, The Weeknd paid, like, $5 million out of pocket. Dre paid, like, $7 or $8 million out of pocket to put this on the way he wanted to put it on. It's really weird. But, like, again, for what it meant, I respect the hell out of that and understand the importance of what this was. The performance itself, I am sorry, but like Snoop Dogg does nothing for me. I respect the fact that he is a legend. I still like a lot of his music. I listen to a lot of his music because I'm a white kid from New England. I grew up listening to a lot of that because why wouldn't I? But Snoop Dogg, it's one of those, how can I miss you if you don't go away? And Snoop Dogg has been everywhere for my entire fucking life. He has never gone away ever. Whereas with Dr. Dre, and at times he's been kind of off to the sideline. He's been there, but he hasn't been out there. Snoop Dogg, respect to the fucking guy, does everything. He makes all the money in the world because he will put his name and his face wherever. I'm pretty sure he's done collaborations with fucking Kids Bop. For God's sakes. Like, he just doesn't go away. So seeing him perform doesn't really do too much for me personally. Eminem, it's kind of the same thing. Like, again, white kid from Maine who grew up in the, was a kid in the late 90s, early 2000s. I'm still burned out on Eminem. I gotta be honest. And he's not the only one. Like, I'm burned out on the likes of, like, Linkin Park because they were just so goddamn popular and everywhere. And they just never really kind of went away. In terms of that popularity, that it's just, And then you have 50 Cent hanging upside down, which is funny. And Lord knows I laughed for the next 5 minutes straight and had to rewatch the halftime show because I missed a lot of it through my tears. But at the same time, like, again, grew up like, my God, if I didn't play the 50 Cent video games or watch the goddamn movie 24 times. But I don't know. I thought it was good. I still look at, like, the Prince halftime show, and I'm like, that motherfucker played Purple Rain in a torrential downpour. You can't top it.
Yeah, agreed. It was a good show. The one thing I do like is them bringing Anderson .Paak out for the drums, because he's, like, by far, like, the most talented musician right now is Anderson .Paak. He does fucking everything. And like, back onto the rest of the show, the one thing I did like about 50 Cent being upside down is he pulled himself up there. Everyone chirped him for being upside down, but he's like, what?
Everyone chirped him for being overweight, God forbid.
Do you
like,
see?
Literally all of us did. Like,
yeah.
I am heavier than I was when I graduated high school for damn sure. That man's like 50.
He's 46, for fuck's sake.
Right? Like, a guy who's 46 and apparently that big, as everyone's saying, pulls himself up on the fucking bar as if no issue whatsoever and just goes immediately to singing. Like that right there was just like, what that, like, is a tank. Absolute tank. Another thing, too, is people were giving Snoop Dogg, D-O-double-G, the man himself, Snoop Lion. They're giving him shit for smoking weed.
No, they're not. They're just looking for something to get outraged at, man. They're not really pissed. It's just, let's milk everyone's hatred towards this halftime show by showing a guy smoking weed in a state where it's legal, who everyone fucking knows he smokes weed, and he has...
It's the smartest thing in the world, right? Because then you'll have people who are like, what the fuck are you talking about? Going head-to-head in the comments.
Exactly. It's
with
all about
the people who are like, what a scumbag Snoop Dogg is. So literally, it's just baiting people into arguments in the comments for the sake of engagement.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
Some people actually didn't understand that, and like, I'm like, Snoop Dogg admitted to smoking up in the fucking White House. In the White House. And he's like, it's like, you smoked up in the White House? Like, no, we cool with it, I was in the bathroom. There's someone go by, just someone come by and put that shit out. I'm like, what a fucking baller. That guy does whatever he wants. And they're like, oh, this arena, like, you can't smoke in there. It's like, you sure about that? They say you can't, but you still can. What, they gonna do, kick Snoop Dogg out? No.
Ladies and gentlemen, we had to cancel Snoop Dogg's performance. He was caught smoking marijuana in the bathroom. That building would be burned down.
Yeah.
That building would smell like more kush than before. In spite.
Everyone just takes the blunt out of their pocket just for Snoop.
Yeah. I mean, you're in LA, like, it's there. It's just
There's
there.
probably a dealer outside when you get your ticket in, gives you like a gram because of how much you paid for the ticket already.
Here's your honorary Super Bowl branded gram.
There you go.
Oh my God. So, hey, I enjoyed it. It was pretty fun. I thought the Super Bowl was pretty decent.
I loved the halftime show. I mean, we already kind of had a brief conversation about it on Twitter about kind of, the impact that I thought I had from a pure musician standpoint, as I did go back and watch like the Prince one, the Paul McCartney one, because it's like, it's hard to, say like, I initially said, I'm like, oh yeah, this one was fucking great because, recency bias and whatnot. For me, like, yeah, probably from the musician standpoint, I have to agree. The Prince of the Paul McCartney one is like the best musicianship performance. But what did it for me, like I kind of explained, is that, it was these legends of modern hip hop in the place where modern hip hop was born, where all they were from, like homegrown dude, besides obviously Marshall. And
50 Cent's from New York too, but
that's very true. Yeah. But like he was like discovered by, I think, Eminem and Dre, and they, signed him and whatnot. And so that's kind of what, to me, like, that's what like is the big part of music, is it's the cultural impacts that it has on society. It's the way that it hits you. It's more than just music, and that's how it is for a lot of people. So that's kind of the way I looked at it, and where I would rank it much higher than like a 7 out of 10, like probably like 9 out of 10 for me because of that. And obviously, yeah, I mean, there's a couple, like Kendrick being there was like, hey, probably to market to the younger crowd, but also the dudes coming out of boxes around him made up for whatever confusion I had about him being there. That was dope as shit. I was very confused, and like it was really sick. Obviously, Mary J. Blige, incredible voice.
She was great. Dude. Just in terms of like her vocal range and control, she's unreal. Like,
still got
in terms of a vocal performance, she was, I mean, obviously so far above everybody else there. It was insane.
Then,
I mean, well, Kendrick Lamar is kind of in that same class, or at least close. Like, I'm not the most familiar with Kendrick.
Oh, he's
like in terms of his fucking control and vocal range and just his performance, I mean, he was up there too. For sure.
And so the last thing I want to say is like, there's all that speculation on, Eminem kneeling. Not going to get into that because it could go either way for Tupac, for whatever. But I will say that's pretty much probably a thing that they were like, hey, Mr. Andre, please don't say still not loving police. And it's like, of course he's going to say it. Number one, he's, the man was in NWA. Like, what do you expect? Also, he's going to do whatever he wants. That's probably why he paid some of that money, so he could do whatever he wants, say F you. And I really appreciated that, especially in a place with, one of the most corrupt law enforcement departments, plural, because the sheriff's is very corrupt there, even worse than the PD.
Saw a headline, or not a headline, but there was an article on Reddit, and I'm sorry to interrupt. Like, literally, there's like over 20 well-known gangs like organized within the LAPD.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, known that these officers are a part of literally, it's insanity. Like, it's still a thing as much as it was when NWA started. Mm-hmm. It's insanity.
Yeah. And that's why it's important to keep saying those things. And that's why, don't, like, always poke the bear in that scenario, because it makes them uncomfortable.
Yeah. I will say the Eminem kneeling thing, I'm just a fan of for the sole purpose of... white people being like, well, I'm not mad because he didn't do it during the anthem.
Or the people, oh my God, or the people like, there wasn't enough diversity, or Eminem was the only good part. I'm like, you guys are really telling on yourselves, man. Or the dude, I'm not even going to name him. Everyone knows who the fuck he is. He's a little man baby. This was the most sexualized, sexual anarchy Super Bowl halftime show. Like, motherfucker, we had Shakira and J-Lo twerking for a solid 10 seconds together.
Bro, we saw Janet Jackson's tit like a decade ago. Like,
are they light enough skinned for you? Like, holy shit.
Oh my God. Well, no, Shakira is Shakira. He was mesmerized by the tongue thing, so he doesn't remember.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Yeah. For our for audio
Super Bowl moment.
God.
It's so good.
Every year there's great memes, and this year it has a lot to do with 50 hanging upside down, and I like that.
It really does.
Like that kid really sitting in the classroom, like it's like 50 waiting for. All they did was flip that meme upside down. It said 50 waiting for his cue to come on stage, and it's just that kid like holding his breath.
Oh my God. God, the memes are always the best.
Yeah.
We will move on from the football talk. We will spare you all. It is a hockey podcast primarily, but as well, I mean, hey, we're getting back to the swing of things. However, we still have other viewer questions. And we go from football to wrestling. This comes from Mr. BBG, one of the finest streamers on earth. The big news today in the wrestling world is that Cody Rhodes of AEW, All Elite Wrestling, Endo, I don't know what the hell your background's doing, but it's going to give me a damn seizure. Cody Rhodes
Sorry.
of AEW has apparently left. He was one of essentially the founders of the company, and it looks like he's leaving potentially. And BBG asks what happens next. The only, in terms of conversation, we don't have to have it. Sin knows of AEW. He is not an outright fan. He is a fan of Danhausen.
Yes.
Endo kind of sort of knows.
Yeah.
We don't have to have the biggest wrestling thing, but there was a comment that I saw on Reddit that sums this up perfectly. Cody Rhodes could be standing on the second rope, lifting the WWE World title above his head underneath the WrestleMania 43 sign with pyro going off and commentators screaming, and I would still wonder, okay, when is he going back to AEW? How is this a work, and how are we getting played as an audience? I'll wait to see what happens, and then I'll comment on it from there. If he does leave, it's kind of fucking weird. If he doesn't leave, it's still kind of weird at the same time, but that's wrestling. That's the perfect way to sum it up. Wrestling is kind of weird.
Yeah.
And that's why it's great. That's why I bought tickets to AEW Dynamite in Boston this April. I'm very much looking forward to it. Those tickets sold out fucking fast, by the way, or at least close to it. I barely got half decent seats. Goddamn.
Yeah.
So, looking forward to that.
Oh man.
If anybody's going to that, by the way, I'll see you this April. Come say hi.
If there's one thing I like about that segue is just like an average football player to wrestling, we segued from that as well, because half of the guys I think I had a tweet like last week, and it was like pro wrestling is just like the football kids who really like drama class. Like that's basically what it was.
Some instances.
Yeah.
Also, why is there so much crossover with hockey fans and wrestling fans? I first noticed it when I would notice, obviously 2BC doing the wrestling and hockey videos constantly. And then as I looked at it more, I'm like, there's a lot of crossover with that. What the hell's with that?
Man's throwing
I don't
hands.
know.
That's it. Man's throwing hands.
Yeah, I don't have an explanation for that crossover there, but it's true. We will move on to the hockey talk. This question comes from Cam. It's not really a question, it's more of a statement. Talk or a request. Talk about Jaromir Jagr and his legacy now that he is 50.
You
It is
think
Jaromir
you
Jagr's-
fucking pay our paychecks, Cam? Telling us what to talk about on this podcast.
You don't know me.
You don't know me. Nice Mrs. Pancakes.
Oh, this is already
Oh
my
my
favorite
God.
episode so far.
Jaromir Jagr is 50 years old today, gentlemen, and is still actively playing for Kladno in the Czech Republic. Of course, his childhood team, essentially. I mean, what is there to say, though, about Jaromir Jagr that has not already been said? He is one of the most recognizable faces in hockey history. He is one of the best players in hockey history. Who knows where he'd be on the all-time scoring list if he did not go back to the, what was at the time the Russian Super League. I mean, again, he left following the 2008 season and played 3 years in Russia with Avangard Omsk. Who knows where he would have been, because at that point, he was still a 40, 50-point guy in the KHL, and they have a significantly shorter season than we have in the NHL. He is one of the best damn players of all time. Again, it's still there's been some talk about why he, is continuing to play, but he is the majority owner of Kladno. So, I mean, again, he's got the vested interest to make sure that team doesn't go under. And there was talk about, his dad and just to tie in with that team. But, I mean, Jesus, does the resume not speak for itself in terms of, what was it, 2 Stanley Cups, of course, with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He basically won everything there ever was to win, and he's still playing. It's insanity. He's one of the... If someone said, in their opinion, they think Jaromir Jagr is the best hockey player of all time, there's at least a discussion.
Yeah.
You can't just immediately dismiss it, and I think that speaks for itself.
Yeah. My point that I would make is... just to kind of show what kind of legacy he is, what kind of player he is, I'd ask anyone, okay, define, thinking in terms of NHL, define his archetype. What is he? Power forward, playmaker, sniper? He could be literally any of them, and that
He's-
to me is really what makes a good player. You know, on top of obviously the stats, when you think about that, when he is undefinable in his playing style, I think that's how you know he created something new. He was a cut above the rest.
Yeah, I think if you look at it that way, I think he is like the true like definition of a all around player. You get him in a task, you can get it done like completely. Like he's still 50, and he's still got the hands. That's
I mean,
the
he
thing
did it
too.
in his 40s in the NHL too. That's the
Yeah.
crazy part. Like he was sick in Florida, man.
He was outscoring rookies when he was in his 40s. That's insane.
Absolutely ridiculous. Jaromir Jagr. Again, I don't think we have to sit here for too long and hype up one of the greatest players of all time. But a happy birthday to Mr.
Go
Jagr.
bang a Russian model.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
Like, only Jaromir Jagr could have, like, that instance where he's like, I'm not married, I don't have kids, I'm going to sleep with someone half my age who was apparently the ex-girlfriend of someone on the national team.
Oh yeah, that was kind of,
Like,
that was a little
just-
rough, but maybe the kid was all happy about that. He's like, fuck yeah, my ex was good enough for Jagr.
I'm doing well. Jesus. This next question comes from Craze. What are some hard truths that a lot of NHL fans don't want to admit, i.e. QC and Hartford aren't getting another team?
That's rough.
All right, a hard truth that a lot of people don't want to admit. I feel like there's a lot of possibilities here, just
Yeah.
in terms about what the ceiling is for NHL in general in North America compared to the other sports. I feel like that's a hard truth for a lot of people to accept. Man, that's a tough one, though. It's a tough one because it's like, okay, do you go in terms of something like that in hockey's popularity? Do you go in along the lines of like, oh yeah, something like a certain region? I mean, as much as he threw out QC, like Hartford. I mean, I almost want to say Atlanta, but Atlanta's more likely to get a team than Hartford at this point, easily.
Yeah.
Just because Atlanta's so damn big. So, I mean, the Hartford, like Quebec City. Here's the problem. If the NHL were to expand beyond 32 teams, and there's nothing stopping them, from expanding again, and I'm sure they will. Obviously, we all kind of know the common shouts, whether it be, Atlanta getting another shot, Quebec City, Kansas City, Houston. Like, basically, just look at the biggest cities in the U.S. and where they don't really have much representation. Milwaukee, for God's sakes. Obviously, the arena's good enough to maintain the Bucks. I don't know if that arena could easily be switched over for ice. I don't remember if that is where the Milwaukee Admirals play or not, or if they have their own arena, and they do have their own arena. They play on the college campus at the University of Milwaukee, apparently. So, I'm not sure. I feel like it's a rather hard question. And the silence agrees.
Well,
No, sorry. I'm
I'm trying to let Endo go.
I'm just laughing about it. We got tagged in a post by part of my take saying all podcasts have the same three people hosting it. And it's like three people from like Disney things, and everyone's like, "Which one's Endo?" And everyone who's tagged is points. I'm like, "Oh boy." Anyways, but yeah, I'm not really sure. For what would be a better what's something that people want to admit? Like QC is never going to happen. That's a fact. I just don't think it's going to happen with the same market size and everything. Because I just don't see it.
That Gary Bettman is making the right choice by not moving the Arizona Coyotes. There's your hard truth.
Oh my god.
Bam.
Do we have them?
Bam.
Do we have the Coyotes on a docket at all or no?
No, we don't. That's the only time we're going to mention them today.
Okay. Can I mention one? The only thing I'm going to mention.
No, I'm going to cut you off, and the podcast will be awkward. Yes, mention it.
Okay, fine. 3,500 is the now confirmed seating for that new arena because they need to add the expansions for the NHL, make it NHL ready. So it went from 5,000 seats because they need an extra 1,500 removed. 3,500 for an NHL team to play in. Now, a lot of people are comparing this to what happened to Calgary back in the 80s, but the difference is that Calgary was able to sell that out regardless because they were still a good team at the time.
They're going to sell out 3,500. They're going to.
Fucking hope so.
If they don't, then I will change my stance. They're going to. And again, we've talked about it forever and ever. Amen. You look at the layout of the Phoenix area, and everybody knows, like, essentially, unless you're an NFL team like the Cardinals, being on the west side isn't going to help. They are literally going to be on a college campus. There are kids who are going to go. There are. And then there's the regular people who are going to go. And I get the idea of like, oh, well, the Coyotes Stadium always looks so empty. That's because it's a gigantic stadium. You have people packed into a third. It's going to be full. It is. I would be absolutely stunned if it's not.
Fingers crossed.
Either of you have a hard truth, or will we leave it at the Coyotes? Because honestly, that's a question you got to kind of put some thought into. And unless you just want to outright troll.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that's... some of the NHL fans maybe don't want to admit. Technology is going to be the reason that hitting's taken out of the game. It's not because the game is going soft. It's because of the technology, which makes people fly into other people. With their pads, it doesn't hurt to hit people. You fly into them. It's not the fact that, like, it's becoming more dangerous. It's not becoming more safe. And that's because of the protective equipment. And that's a lot of people, I think, don't realize is that's the reason why these hits are so brutal is because people are flying, 30 miles an hour into someone else, and they don't feel anything. Back in the day, that shit hurt. But with the pads and stuff that you have now, you crush into someone, you don't feel shit. They get whiplash to hell. So and that's really what does most of the concussions, I think, these days. The head contact is there, but I think there's a lot of micro concussions that are happening from whiplash alone. And that's going to come out probably in about a decade or so. And eventually,
I think
there might not be hitting
kind of out there.
Yeah, there might not be hitting in this game. And we're going to have to deal with that as NHL fans. And you're going to have to realize the reason for that and not try to blame something that fits a different bias that you may have.
Eventually, the argument becomes, well, is it even hockey at that point, or do you just accept that it is what it is? And I think eventually it would have to come down to almost a lawsuit of the NHL saying, if you're going to be in our league, you have to accept the consequences of this is the standard of the game, and this can happen, and we're not liable.
Yeah.
It's basically the way it is right now. It's going to evolve because the NHL is going to have to make sure that they can't be found liable if someone gets killed, essentially. Yeah. Which, it's honestly not out of the question. We are fragile, fragile human beings. And I hate to bring this up, but it is what it is. We got word last week about how Bob Saget died. I mean, granted, he is an older man at the time. He's in his 60s. But the guy somehow fell and hit his head and was like, oh, fuck, my head hurts. I'm going to go to bed. Oh, fuck, my head hurt was enough to kill him. And it doesn't take a 65-year-old man for that to happen to, even if you have a helmet on. Someone gets crushed, their head whiplashes into the dasher. That can do it.
Subdural hematoma.
That can do it.
You get a subdural hematoma, and you don't, again, it just can feel like a horrible fucking headache.
Dude, fuck, Rich Peverly, what was it, a heart attack on the bench out of nowhere that ended his career?
God, I hate how people talk about this, by the way. And then he asked to go back in. Yay, hockey players. It's like he was probably out of it as he was just resuscitated. Like, he probably didn't understand what just happened. Like, stop with this whole toughness thing with the there's that's another thing. That sort of thing is so dangerous. And I've been bitched out a lot for having that opinion on certain social medias. But, like, that toughness culture of hockey is probably its own worst enemy.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like, especially, like, cardiovascular stuff like that. Like, I've said on this podcast that I developed myocarditis. If I kept playing hockey and I was like, oh, I'm just going to fight through or whatever, I could have died. Right? Like, so imagine, like, something like if he came back in the game, he probably would be dead because your heart's not used to that kind of stuff. And, like,
coming off a heart attack, like, that's...
Yeah. Not just my heart being like, hey, it's doing a fucky wucky. Like, your heart's, like, trying to kill you. Like, basically.
Last question is from Cody, and it will transition us to some of our other talking points today. Should Olympic hockey teams be allowed to play players born in other countries that have their country's citizenship, or should they have to play for those that they were actually born in, i.e. Andrei Burakovsky playing for Sweden despite being born in Austria? In terms of where you're born, it doesn't necessarily dictate your nationality, right? William Nylander's Swedish. He was born in Calgary, was he not? Because his dad was playing in Calgary at the time. He is Swedish. That's it. Now, if you want to say they have the option to play for either, sure. And I'm cool with that in a general sense. Like, I find that to be far more acceptable to say, hey, you're Brett Hull. If you want to play for Canada, if you want to play for the U.S., whatever. I don't really think there's too much of an issue with that. I will say it is a bit weird that Chris Chelios' son, Jake, is playing for Team China. You know? Like, that's where it gets a bit weird, where you have, what was it, Nigel Dawes played for Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
Like, that's where it gets a little bit weird, you know? But in terms of people having to play based off of where they were born, then you're just being like, okay, if you're the son of a hockey player, you better hope you were born in the right country. Like, that's too much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. It's borders are just fucking lines, man.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, so I had a take on this too. I was talking about this with Stephen Ellis, friend of the show, writes for the Hockey News. He was talking about the Canadian, not the Canadian, but the Chinese national team, which is essentially the Canadian American national team, and how the ice time being distributed between the nationalization players and the Chinese-born players is staggering. You have guys on here. I'm not sure people can see on your screen over here. But you have guys who are like actively playing, who are active on there, who have less than 10 minutes played over the course of like 6 games, like in total ice time. And I believe in the last game that they just played, we're going to talk about where Canada beat them 7-4, it was 7-1 or 7-2. We'll get to it later. But they had players who only played 10 seconds of time in the game itself. Now, this also goes back to them developing their program and using the Kulin Red Star, and we could have a whole different debate on that. What they're doing right now is not developing their program or not developing hockey in general whatsoever, because you're giving these fresh born talent who are here from your country not enough time to develop or learn these skills whatsoever against real world talent in the Olympics. Sure, it's great and all. It's good for them to get some experience and all that. But when your homebred team in Kunlun has been dead last every single year that they've been in the franchise in the KHL, and they don't even play inside of like Kunlun itself, they play in Moscow. It's like, is your naturalization program actually doing anything good for you? Like, the one time I would say is a good thing is Nigel Dawes was Canadian-born Jamaican. So great to talk about as well too. One of my favorite players. He is the 4th highest scoring forward, actually skater, in the KHL all time. And he played for Aki Bars, Kazan, and developed naturalization for Kazakhstan and played for a national team on several occasions. That's perfectly awesome. Like, that's a talented player.
I still think that's weird, though, to just be like, well, you're playing for our team for 7 years in Kazakhstan, and now we're going to just be like, okay, you know, like, I get it. Like, the idea of he lived in Kazakhstan for 7 years so he can play for the Kazakhstan team. It's not the most egregious thing in the world. But at the same time, I mean, then there's the argument of, are you developing your program by letting your actual like Kazakhstani-born talent play alongside someone as talented as Nigel Dawes, or are you taking away an opportunity? It's just,
that's very true.
It's a whole conversation.
Then that also brings up FIFA and their regulations where, like, if you have to have 2 years playing a certain region to go play somewhere else as well. Because there are a lot of people who go for the Welsh program, who then end up qualifying for the English program and qualifying the whole entire of the UK. It's a whole different argument as well. And like, if you're developing it to help these people grow, then sure, yeah. If these people aren't taking all the ice time up, then I'm like, yeah, that's perfect. That's awesome. But when 95% of your squad is taken up all the time, they're not even like Chinese born or nation born, and they aren't really doing anything to help out whatsoever, I don't see a benefit to the program whatsoever. And I know this was all started because China had a revelation like sometime in the early 2010s about our winter sports program sucks. Let's do better. And their idea was to grab talent and just bring it from naturalization. I mean, that's great in the short term, but you're not developing stuff for the future.
That's good. But I mean, do you use the Olympics to develop? I feel like the Olympics is not really for development. It's for recognition and like spreading the word. I think development comes in all the time between the Olympics. So hopefully they're doing shit to develop between that. But yeah, like you said, it's a good short term to bring people over. But yeah.
That does bring us into talking about the Olympics today and just kind of the update that's going around. We'll start off, of course, on the women's side where, surprise, surprise, Canada and U.S. will be the final on Thursday. It's what we all knew was coming. They are the two best programs in the world, hands down. We knew this. It's just a matter of who's going to win. Of course, 4 years ago, the U.S. did win. Shout out to Maddie Rooney, stole the show. I don't know how this one's going to go, but I am very, very much looking forward to this game. I think, again, it's going to be fantastic, and it's kind of the game that we were all waiting for.
Yeah, I love it. I love women's hockey, especially in the finale. It's just got so much electricity to it, and yeah, they're for like, I don't know what it is. It's just such a good game, and it's almost like when you expect it to happen, it feels that much better. In a weird way. I don't know.
This is the main event of Olympic hockey this year because of the lack of NHL involvement. This is the biggest game that will be played. Let's be honest. Again, the men's side of things is obviously not as much interest. This is fantastic. It's going to be a tremendous game. It is, again, the pinnacle of Olympic hockey for this Olympic cycle. I am obviously backing the U.S. to win, but there's a very good chance that Canada could regain the gold.
Yeah.
Certainly. Fingers crossed for Endo Mills.
Yeah.
In terms of the men's game, though, we're in the quarterfinal stage, or at least have just moved on from the quarterfinal stage. Slovakia beat Germany 4-0. Of course, Germany were the ones that made it to the gold medal game 4 years ago before losing to the totally not Russians. Canada beat China 7-2. 2 goals for China against Canada.
Yeah. The one thing I want to say about that game, too, is Jeremy Smith has had an absolutely insane performance this tournament. He unfortunately got injured in the first period, I believe, after one of the goals. I guarantee you that there are some AHL teams looking at him right now, because if it was not for him, like after the first period before he went down, it was 2-0. I think it was either 2-0 or 2-1 for Canada. Like, he kept that team in the whole entire time. Gave them a fighting chance, but after he was gone, like, they had to put Paris O'Brien, and he did not do any, I won't say any favors, that's kind of rude, but he was just out of his element completely. Fingers crossed that Jeremy Smith does get healthy, because he does rock Warrior gear, and I love Warrior gear, and he does too. But it's unfortunate. Yeah.
Jeremy Smith is a veteran goaltender, too. He played for the Bruins once upon a time, so yeah, I could see him getting a spot. Switzerland, or as I wrote on our sheet, Switzerlander, beat the Czechs, beat Czechia 4-2. Denmark 3-2 over Latvia. No Latvian dream this time out. We're still waiting for that Latvian gold medal run.
If they had Rudolph Balcers, they would have done it. God damn it.
Yeah. Damn. So it sets the stage then for the next round, where we have the United States playing Slovakia, where hopefully the U.S. get the win there. I mean, obviously against Slovakia, 4-0 over Germany, they're looking pretty good, but the U.S. has looked pretty good as well so far this tournament. So a little bit worried for that particular matchup. And Sweden plays Canada, which is also a bit of a tough matchup for Canada. You know, even if it's NHL involvement or not, these are, interesting matchups for both the U.S. and Canada. But it does set the stage. If both were to win, we would see a rematch. Of course, the U.S. beat the Canadians for the first time in 12 years in the group stage portion. But if we were to get U.S. and Canada for the men's side, it would be in the semifinal. The other two matchups, Finland and Switzerland, and Russia against Denmark. So Russia, Denmark getting their first win ever. Yeah. Earlier in this tournament in the group stage, they make it here as well after beating Latvia. But I mean, Russia or Finland, maybe Switzerland. But I mean, if the Russians win and Switzerland upsets the Finns, like, the Russians are just like, well, back to the gold medal game with us. Yeah. Like, come on now. So if I had to guess, it's going to be the winner of U.S. or Canada against Russia in the final at this rate. That's kind of what it's shaping up to be. There are a couple of teams, Sweden, Finland could play spoiler, but it's really what it's looking like. So we shall see what happens. Watch the Olympics. It's pretty good hockey. Or you can watch Evander Kane's return to San Jose.
No, don't do that. Not recommend.
The Oilers last night shut out the Sharks 3-0. Stuart Skinner's first NHL shutout. Evander Kane was booed every time he touched the puck. Sin, your thoughts on his return to San Jose?
I mean, yeah, I guess it played out as you expected. The Sharks lost, which is at this point in the season probably good for us. Evander Kane getting booed every time he touched the puck. I have mixed feelings on that kind of stuff. I like it when it's like a guy like Chris Pronger. When he would always...
Or like Subban in Montreal, although you kind of hope a lot of people don't have racist intentions.
Yeah, like, well, I liked it. I always think
did,
of Chris Pronger, because every time Chris Pronger touched the fucking puck when he was in our building, he'd get booed. Know why? Because he was good. And he was so good. He killed us, like a lot. Like, he was that kind of player. He got booed all the time. This one is like... Yeah, it sucked. He broke protocol and stuff like that, but like it wasn't really hockey reasons why he got kicked out, like why he left the team. So I don't know. Booing him is just... I'm torn on it. And obviously I'm not an Evander Kane advocate, as we have known on this show. I just don't... It didn't sit right with me, and I can't really put my finger on it.
It just comes off as maybe a little bit petty.
Yeah. Like it's not a hockey reason. Like what... Justice is fucking... He's not here anymore. Like, just move on. Let's not start chanting. And, we don't need you and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's how I view it as well. I totally understand your viewpoint on that. Unless Endo has any thoughts, I want to talk about the Buffalo Sabres.
I'll make you hold off on the Sabres for a bit. Okay. I think I get why they were probably upset, considering how much of an idiot he was for that decision to do what he did. And I guess because being him being a locker room cancer and having him out there still gonna boo him. But end of the day, like you said, move on. He's in a worse place now with Edmonton. So
like we don't have to worry about him anymore. That's the best feeling. Don't fucking worry yourself over it. Like
does he count to the cap hit at all whatsoever or no? Nope.
And that's one of the weirdest goddamn things that's ever happened that should be a bigger story that the NHL has successfully just gone, shh.
Well, it's not the first time.
Yeah, what happened to the appeal, dude? I'm off of Twitter for the most part.
The Sharks were allowed, if I'm not mistaken, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm not mistaken, the Sharks were allowed to cut him because of the apparent incident over vaccination status and what happened, and like they were essentially like, oh, well, this incident happened with Evander Kane, so we're allowed to get rid of him due to the violation of AHL protocols when it comes to COVID. But then the appeal was made and it came out that he didn't do anything, or at least there was no extra punishment or whatever. And now, if I'm not mistaken, if it was he didn't do anything, the Sharks shouldn't have been allowed to cut him because he didn't do anything.
It wasn't quite like that. There's this extra thing of like, the whole thing was like, should he get paid or not? Because did he do this like trip to BC? But he still violated protocol in the NHL team and the AHL team outside of that trip to BC, I think, or whatever. So that is, I think, where the confusion came from. I could be wrong, but to my understanding of that situation, he violated protocol probably a bunch on the AHL team, like in different ways. But like that trip to BC, they couldn't prove that, like, everything in his entire...
Right. But at the same time, the Sharks were able to terminate his contract for, quote, breach of his NHL standard player contract and for violation of the protocols.
Which means that he didn't get paid. Yeah.
But it was found that he didn't violate them, right?
No, it was found that he wasn't in... He didn't... It was the BC accusation, I think, when he went to BC.
Right, well, that was the break of protocol.
But I think there was another one in AHL, like him going out of his hotel and stuff like that, and going out on town, like violating team, like, and maybe even county protocols. I don't know.
Basically,
it's weird.
With the Sharks, dare I say, it's a bit fishy. But yeah, they were able to...
I think it's just he's a good player, and the NHL's like, all right, we'll let him play.
They were able to get out from underneath the deal. He has no attachment to the Sharks whatsoever. He is now just outright an Edmonton Oiler. That's it.
And I don't think we have to pay him either, like Mike Richards.
No,
nothing.
Which is hilarious.
He's just done.
Yeah. Like what happened to the NHLPA? I don't know. It's a weird situation, and there's a lot more to it than we'll probably ever realize. But hey,
it's weird. The Buffalo Sabres played the Montreal Canadiens the other night. Jeff Skinner scored 4 goals. Now, I know what you're saying. It's Montreal. And you're right. It is Montreal. But Jeff Skinner scored 4 goals, and this comes from Joe Yerdon, perhaps, on Twitter. Jeff Skinner has 20 goals this season now in 45 games. He had 21 goals in his last 112 games before that. Jeff Skinner is, if not back, he's getting much, much closer to what was expected of him when he signed that contract extension with Buffalo. And a big part of it, granted, he's only come back recently, but this is from Buffalo Sabres stats. Alex Tuch had 3 assists on 4 of the Jeff Skinner goals. Only his second career 3-assist game and fourth career 3-point game. Tuch has 17 points in 15 games for the Sabres.
Not bad.
As bad of a decision as it was to trade Jack Eichel, and we are about to talk about that, that's why I put Buffalo first, but as bad of a decision as it was to just completely blow the Jack Eichel conversation, a reminder of what the Sabres got for him. It was Jack Eichel and a conditional 3rd-round pick in 2023. And that Vegas conditional pick, the conditions on that happened to be if Vegas' first-round pick in the 2020 draft is top 10, LOL it won't be, then Buffalo would give their 3rd-round pick next year anyway. So it is Jack Eichel and a 3rd for Alex Tuch, Peyton Krebs, a conditional 1st and 2nd. As much as we looked at that return, I think people are finding out how good Alex Tuch is. And Peyton Krebs already looked really good before getting injured. And the Sabres are getting draft picks out of it. They did okay. At least on paper, right now, we'll see what happens with those draft picks. They did okay. That Vegas conditional 1st, they get a 1st-round pick no matter what. And that 2nd-round pick, they get that no matter what as well. So it is Tuch, Krebs, a 1st and a 2nd for Eichel. It's honestly not that bad.
No, I mean, I wasn't convinced that Tuch would be a bona fide top 6 guy. And I may be eating my words. Maybe it's true he wasn't getting the shots in Vegas as he could. I'm like, this guy's middle 6. I just didn't think he had it. So far, so good for the Sabres. We'll have to see about Krebs. I'm not sold on him either. I think maybe 2C, but what I like, again, I'll always say this, I like what the Sabres did simply because they're going to recreate what Jack Eichel was, hopefully, in the aggregate, and they could end up on the better side of things. Even though they don't have that franchise center, they could actually end up being a better team.
Yes, I think that's right. And I mean, right now their top line is Skinner, Tage Thompson, and Alex Tuch.
Tage Thompson on the top line?
Yeah.
That man went
Skinner
from bust to 1C quick.
Skinner has 34 points in 45 games. Thompson has 33 and 43, which is pretty good.
That's not bad.
And then Tuch, 17 points in 15 games.
Tage Thompson,
yeah.
Man. Back to his growth that he used to get in like NHL 19?
Like 16.
NHL 18, 19? I'm trying to think.
Wow.
I mean, again, he was a part of the Ryan O'Reilly trade, and honestly, again, you got to look at that trade too. It worked out perfectly for the Blues to get Ryan O'Reilly. They win a Stanley Cup. It was Vladimir Sobotka and Patrick Berglund, neither who play for the Sabres anymore, but they got Tage Thompson and first-round pick Ryan Johnson, a defender who plays for the University of Minnesota, who went 31st overall in 2019. He doesn't look that bad either. So while the Sabres are giving up on this higher level talent, the returns that they've gotten on these technically aren't that bad.
Yeah.
And shout out to Peyton Krebs. He actually has 22 games played, 6 points. He's 21 years old. It's not that bad. So I don't hate what the Sabres have there. They just need to mend the fence with that fan base right now, because I do think they have good pieces already on that team, and they have 3 first-round picks right now as it stands.
Yeah.
They're looking okay.
Mm-hmm.
By the way,
it works this time.
The 2022 draft is insanity.
I know.
Right now, as it stands today, the number 1 overall pick will either go to Arizona or Montreal because of the Dvorak deal. Right. Arizona right now is on pace to have the 2nd overall pick anyway. Buffalo is at 5. You have Columbus, who might have like the 9th and 10th pick if the season were to end today, because there's that Seth Jones pick that was in. Mm-hmm. Basically, there are teams right now, Buffalo, Montreal, Arizona, that have multiple first-round picks at play in this upcoming draft. this could be an insane draft for those clubs in particular. I'm excited to see how that plays out. But the Sabres talk brings us to the Vegas talk.
Yay!
Jack Eichel is active and will be in the Vegas lineup on Wednesday night.
I was gonna say I'm really surprised, but then I saw Mark Stone was on LTIR. I'm like, okay, well there's the trick. Yeah, they're gonna. Oh, Eichel's good now. They're gonna. Stone will be back by the playoffs probably.
Lingering issues for Mark Stone, and indeed he is on the IR now.
But then, oh no, Lehner got injured. Now they're gonna crawl back to Fleury after dumping him for nothing.
So Sin's just revealing everything we were going to talk about. Sorry. Him. I like it.
I took the lead because it's Vegas and fuck Vegas, and especially the way they
this
manage their team is gross, man. I understand it's a business, but these are also human beings. I mean, how much did Flower not want to leave there? And now, like Vegas is pursuing him. Obviously, McCrimmon has probably come out by this point and said there's no validity to this rumor, as he said it numerous times before they made moves. Or before, Nate Schmidt tested positive for PEDs. It's just weird. Like it's the mentality in hockey that's in my opinion the most cancerous. It's that win at all costs. It's what keeps Evander Kane, going to a neat team immediately. It's what the reason why Reed Boucher was shielded from these allegations. It's the reason why Bertanen was not, because he's a trash fourth liner. You look at where these.
All right, so I gotta cut you off. You're going robotic. It was on the fence for the moment.
Damn.
And I'm like, okay.
Right when you mentioned Boucher, it went absolutely apeshit in the microphone. Yeah. You're being silenced, Sin. You're being silenced by Big Disc.
Damn it!
Big Disc.
Big Vegas.
I had a really good point to make. Oh,
keep going.
Essentially,
bring it back.
It's that mentality in hockey. It's where you'll do anything to win, and it doesn't matter as long as they're good on the ice. You don't care about anything else, and that's how kind of Vegas treats building their team. On the one hand, might be good, but on the other hand, it's like again, these are people. The way they handled trading, who was it, man? Someone that Schmidt trading was bad. He found out through social media. A couple people found out that way. The way they dumped Flower off for nothing, and then all of a sudden, they have a need and they're coming back. I'm watching my ping kind of go fluctuate, so I'll wrap it up quick. But that's essentially my gripe with Vegas, and honestly, some of their fans and some of their blogs have noticed that too. It's gonna catch up to them. Right now, it's a great place to play. Wait until you're a borderline team, the fans start disappearing, the nice glamour wears off, and all of a sudden you have this track record of treating people like crap. I mean, Flower again didn't want to move, got his family, and was forced to move, and now everyone's talking about trading him again at the deadline. Does the man want to move again? He's got a family, and he's obviously a family man. We'll see. We'll see what happens with Vegas. But either way, they're totally subverting the cap. That was their plan all along. And anyone who says otherwise, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Once the Jack Eichel trade happened, that was definitely the plan, was to just be okay, if he can come back early. I thought we wouldn't see Jack Eichel until the playoffs, but Mark Stone could afford to rest up for a little bit.
Oh, yeah. You'll need him.
Yeah, it's crazy. I've said this before. When they announced the team, I said that originally it's going to be a tourist team. It's going to be hot commodities coming in or fans coming in, coming out. It's going to have a high turnover, and there's not going to be a lot of loyalty to some of these players, especially with finding out that you're going to be shipped off another franchise over social media, not even getting a call from your agent or having a conversation with the owner. I think it's disrespectful. But then again, that ties back to, Sin City and the whole mentality around Vegas, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And I think too much of that mentality is seeping into the franchise itself. And it's definitely poisoning the well, and it's giving people bad vibes of going before. Because I remember hearing from a few friends of mine, word of mouth about guys who were going to get drafted. They're like, oh, if I go to Vegas, that'd be pretty cool. It's a brand new franchise, all this, all that. It'd be great. It'd be perfect. But now I think it's going to start changing because of these mixed messages from management being oh, you're going to be a key guy here. We want to keep you around. And then basically being told, maybe probably 24, 48 hours later, you're out the door, kick you out before, slam the door shut. It's not going to be feasible for them in like not even like 3-4 years, but like 2-3 years.
Mark
Like,
my words,
you
they're going to
have-
be trying to dump Petrangelo in 2-3 years.
Yeah,
Because that
It's-
contract's not going to look good. And they're going to do everything they can to dump him, which is, again, maybe the right side, but it's like they keep doing that. Like, that's the thing. They sign guys long term, and then they just start, dumping them off or say, hey, this is part of our plan. Then all of a sudden, never mind, let's change. I don't know. It's weird.
it's like they're playing a custom franchise mode in NHL 22 where they're like, oh, you have 3 years with a player, they get a cup run or whatever. And they're just like, all right, buy high, get him now, whatever. Don't like him now. Is morale going down? Ship him over to Seattle. They have cap space, whatever. Like that's what it kind of feels like a little bit, and it's worrisome. Not just because of the players itself, because of the franchise. And I'm pretty sure Bettman doesn't care because they're lining his pockets with how much money they're bringing in.
For now, yeah.
But,
for now.
yeah, for
Again,
now.
if that team's bad, that could be Arizona's. I mean, even worse than an Arizona situation, just because, like you said, the culture around Vegas, it's a fly-by-night town. You go to Vegas, you fucking leave. And I don't know. We'll see. They could prove me wrong again, but I think that's a team that has to be good, and that's why so much was kind of put into them, making them good, and will probably be put into keeping good as well.
Exactly.
Again, Jack Eichel back. Mark Stone to the IR. Robin Lehner out with an upper body injury. Marc-Andre Fleury might be back. Fleury has a modified no trade clause with a 10-team list. Would he leave Vegas off that list?
If I was him,
We'll
I
find out.
absolutely would. I don't know the situation if his family came with him to Chicago or what, if they still got a place there in Vegas. I don't know.
I'm not sure either in terms of the family situation. I think that would be the biggest thing for him. And for anyone who says Vegas can't afford him, LOL.
Yep.
The Leafs got goalied the other night. Wanted to give Endo a chance to speak on this. As Thatcher Demko tied a Canucks record for most saves in a win with 51, matching Richard Brodeur's tally against the Winnipeg Jets on February 10th, 1985. Demko is making $5 million against the cap until 2026. Jesus Christ. If the Canucks waste the fact that they have Demko, who is playing this well, good God. But they have new management, in there. I think they're okay. Cool. Endo, your thoughts on the Leafs getting goalied and then spanking the Seattle Kraken to make up for it?
I mean, I could have used some of those goal scoring in the other game. I'm just looking right now quickly between the contract between UC Soros and Thatcher Demko. I'm trying to see which has the best value. Because if you put up a 51 fucking save performance and you're getting paid $5 million a year, is it $5 million or $6 million? You said.
I think they're both making 5, by the way.
Both making 5?
Yeah.
Well, you got Demko for till 2026? You said. That's arguably a steal of a deal for how he's
it
playing.
absolutely is. Well, for now, and
Yeah.
Again, if he
He's
keeps
26.
playing like this, yeah, that's a
26.
good
He's
time.
26.
It is a good time to give that goalie that contract, but I'm pretty sure Martin Jones was that same. Again, I'm not saying he's the same. I'm just saying I'm always going to say goalies are weird. And just be careful.
Mm-hmm.
But so far,
I
so
think
good.
$5 million is a pretty good number, though. $5 million is a decent number. If it blows up on you, that's still a movable deal.
Yeah.
Whereas if you sign a goalie to like $7+ million, it starts.
Oh yeah,
getting a
that's
little bit
awful.
shady.
That's my thing. I would never sign a goaltender more than like 3 or 4 years, or more than like 5-6 mil.
Yeah. Speaking of guys being overpaid, Sergei Bobrovsky is finally playing to his contract level. Maybe, not really sure, but yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
He's been good this year, but goalie's worth 10 mil, man, or
Like
whatever.
last year, he was not.
Carey
worth it
Price,
in the playoffs.
#1 goaler, is worth $10 million a year. Thank you very much.
Oh boy, how's that LTR sitting with
The cup to carry the price.
Like if you look back at Thatcher Demko's performance, over the years, he's only getting better. In 2020, he had a 306, 905, then last year 915, 921. He's getting good. Demko was always a weird goalie to me who needed a lot of extra time to develop, and I'm fine with that. You have Zach Fucale, who took a long ass time, almost 10 years, to become an NHL caliber goalie.
Yeah,
even now, he's
developed
still
later. It just seems to be a thing where Nabokov didn't come into the league until he was 25, 26, and then all of a sudden he literally took over.
I can't remember the last goal who came in super young and was dominant. That's probably Vasilevsky. Like he got the job like the season after he got signed. After he was drafted.
That's a good shout because you can't even say like, Carter Hart, because obviously he's had his struggles and you could chalk that up to the team. But
yeah, I can't say Binnington because he was almost in the Cheese Toast League until he bitched and moaned about
Jeremy Swayman.
Well, also Binnington is trash now, so.
Yeah, Binnington is. He always was trash. He was on a hot
trash. Okay, name of the episode: Trash Binnington or Sexual Anarchy.
Oh man.
Oh, that's a good.
Do we care about upsetting Blues fans as much as we care about?
We'll clarify Monkey. He'll be fine with it. He speaks for them all.
Goodness. Wanted to mention here as well, shout out to Matt Boldy of the Minnesota Wild, who, to the surprise of Anson Carter, they're really, really good. Matt Boldy scored his first career hat trick last night. It was a weird goal to the point where the fans were like, did we throw the hats or was it someone else's goal? By the way, again, the hat trick is still just one of my favorite things in all of sports. The fact that fans are like, $50 hat, fuck it, he scored 3 goals.
I know, isn't that such a weird thing, man? I've thrown a hat once in a hat trick.
Never gotten the chance.
And well, yeah, because the other times I was always in the third row corner, so the net was fucking there. So I'm like, I'm not. First of all, yeah, at least I have an excuse not to throw this expensive ass hat.
Matt Boldy is 20 years old. He has 14 points in 13 games, currently on the Wild's third line with Kevin Fiala and Frederick Goodrow. This kid's special, man.
Yep.
Number one, along with myself, the pride of Milford, Massachusetts. Thank you very much. But as well, I mean, like, dude, they brought in Kaprizov. He's only 24. They gave him that big $9 million until 2026, but Kaprizov is there. Boldy is here. Here he is.
He's bold.
We got shut up.
Bold and brash.
We got asked about like dark horses for the cup, and there's one team obviously that we're going to talk about to wrap up the show in a little bit that made a trade that can now be considered in that contention. Minnesota, as evident by Anson Carter, don't get the respect that they deserve. Minnesota could pull something off here. Now, the Western Conference is tough, man.
Yeah.
Because obviously they are in a division with Colorado. But aside from that, in that Central, Minnesota's second. Then you have Nashville. Nashville, with UC Saros, man, who the hell knows? But no one, like, if Nashville makes the playoffs, right now, here's the situation. Colorado, Minnesota, Nashville. Vegas, Calgary, LA, St. Louis, Anaheim. Some people wouldn't put Nashville over the 2 California teams in terms of their ability to make an impact in the playoffs.
Really?
It's just because of the makeup of that roster.
Okay.
I think at the very least, Nashville's in the bottom 3 of those potential 8 seeds as of this moment. In terms of who people would expect, I think most people would put Calgary over Nashville. You're certainly putting Vegas and Colorado and Minnesota over Nashville, so they're in that weird spot. But again, because Minnesota is going to be overshadowed by Colorado and Vegas, and that's the narrative, make no mistake. It's already the narrative heading into the playoffs. If another team other than Colorado or Vegas represent the Western Conference in the Stanley Cup Final, it is an outright failure on Colorado or Vegas' part. Mm-hmm. We all know that. That's what it is. So I think it is fair to consider Minnesota a dark horse, and the fact that they get Matt Boldy to show up mid-season, and he's tearing it up at 20 years old, and they have the depth ahead of him to keep him a little bit sheltered, but still let him do what he needs to do. They're not having to rely on a 20-year-old kid. They have a very interesting setup, and we're not that far removed, obviously, from moving on from Zach Parise and Ryan Suter, and oh God, what's going to happen to this team? And oh God, in case you guys forgot, do you remember the cap hit situation, the buyout penalty for them? Like, Minnesota's in a weird spot where you could say, like, oh shit, they might want to make noise this year, because $2.3 million against the cap for both of them. They keep identical numbers. So Minnesota has $4.7 million on the books because of Suter and Parise. Next year, it goes up to 12.7. Mm-hmm. The year after that, it's 14.7 for 2 years. 14.7 million between 2024 and 26 because they don't have Suter Parise playing for their team anymore. And then it drops down to 1.6. This is a very interesting 4 years for them.
Yeah.
Like, very, very interesting.
Try to make some noise this year, and then, yeah. Shed cap, get picks, exploit entry levels, and then until
Yeah, that's another thing too. When you look into when they had to sign Kaprizov in the offseason, that was a very big deal. When now I'm having to deal with how much cap space I have to take up now because of the 12 and all 14 and all that. It's ridiculous. Another thing I want to mention, we're gonna go back. I just want to go back to Nashville real quick. I just look up some numbers for goaltending. Do you guys know who the backup goalie for Nashville is?
David Riddick. He's played 7 games.
I was going to say, I only know that because I'm doing a fucking franchise mode with him right now.
Yep.
And Tougie only knows it because he edits rosters for 12 hours a day.
There you go.
Dave Riddick, former Toronto Maple Leaf,
Former Calgary Flame, too.
And Calgary Flame.
Big Save Davis. 7
games played with a 305 and an 882 save percentage. Now,
7
UC
games?
Soros has played he's tied his career total for games played with 40. Has a 2.43 and a .925 save percentage. The last time he played,
he's going to be dead by the time he gets to the playoffs. He's going to be dead.
The last time he played this many games was 1920, and that was when they got bounced out of the first round, I believe.
I wonder if they'd like a nice James Reimer for their first round pick.
I think they're going to go look around for a goalie just to have there as that third guy, because Dave Riddick is not going to. He's not doing it. He's not cut out to be a backup.
We'll take Riddick and give him Reimer. They have to give us their first and maybe their second.
Yeah.
Dare I say an interdivision trade for Marc-Andre Fiery Hot Chicken?
I've never
That's the best I had.
Oh my god. I definitely wouldn't want to have a show, an episode where we just talk about stuff, not the trade deadline show, but maybe next week or whatever, just about what's happening, because this is definitely an interesting story here, because you have a guy who's currently at his most games ever played, except for when he played in Liga, when he played 47 games back in 2014-15, but that was way before, and that's a different level of caliber. This is the most he's ever played at this level, and he's definitely gonna get burnt out. You can also talk about Jack Campbell being, burnt out and everything, with Mrazzi being injured, but then the Leafs just re-signed Joseph Wall to a $2.5 million deal, so he could probably come up next to fill in for whatever. But it's crazy. That's going to be their biggest issue when it comes to the playoffs, is being able to make sure that UC is healthy and they don't overwork them.
If
or else
only
they're
they
going to have
were
an issue.
Higher in the standings and they didn't have to worry about getting into the playoffs, really. They could probably rest Saros a lot more. But yeah, you're totally right. They're going to need a goaltender down the stretch. That's what reminds me of the first time the Sharks acquired Reimer, play behind Jones, because Jones was having to play way too much heading into the playoffs. And lo and behold, that was, Jones did good enough in 2016, and actually in the finals was kind of a goddamn brick wall, unfortunately.
Exactly. You know what? These teams
Penguins too good.
They need to find a Curtis McElhinney type goalie who's just the perfect backup. They put him in regular season, regular numbers. He's not that great as a starter, but backup, key.
Good
just a
backups
relief
are
guy.
Underrated, man. They're tough to find, and they're pretty underrated.
Definitely.
That's why the Bruins this year went all in on picking up Allmark to have as a backup or in a cover for Swayman, because instead of, having to run Swayman and Vladar in case Rask couldn't come back, goaltending is obviously super important, but at the same time, you got to balance it right on the books.
Yeah, especially with how fast the game's getting and everything. There's a lot more strain on them. And as a Toronto Maple Leaf guy who's gone through Freddie Anderson playing 60 games a fucking season and then not getting past the first round because he's burnt out of his fucking mind, you got to have backup. You got to have support.
He wouldn't have survived in the day Brodeur was playing 72 games a season. All right, anyway. Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. The fast, how fast the game is. The butterfly itself is also obviously creating a hell of a lot of physical conditions, we'll call it, with goaltenders.
Yeah. A lot of guys are actually moving back into more of a hybrid stance, because constantly going down and going on your knees and stuff like that, it's killer. Even as myself, who plays who does play, I can say firsthand, it does on your knees and your hips and all that. There are guys who are switching to more, they're standing more upright, having more narrow stances, so that way they don't put as much strength on their knees, and just it's rough.
In terms of wrapping up this show, we have two kind of conversations that are pretty close to one another. We will start off with the name Claude Giroux, whose name is very much out there right now in terms of, again, the Philadelphia Flyers captain who might be looking to get him. Elliot Friedman released 32 thoughts here, the most recent one while we were talking. First and foremost, his number one thought is that Vegas' GM Kelly McCrimmon said there's absolutely no truth to a Marc-Andre Fleury reunion, but at the same time, remember when old Biceps Bergevin said there was no truth to PK Subban getting traded, so you never trust those type of words.
Yeah.
But for Claude Giroux, the names that are out there, it's pretty well known. Ideally, the word was Colorado. And again, Claude Giroux is on an expiring contract. It's not all that difficult for a team to go ahead and just retain salary on Claude Giroux. I did the math yesterday on Cap Friendly's trade machine. If you retain 50% on Claude Giroux, Colorado still needs to send about $2.5 million to Philadelphia. That's easy enough. I mean, Eric Johnson could work at $6 million, but JT Compher, there are moves that can be made to easily acquire Claude Giroux if you're Colorado. Other names out there, and literally have been called lesser options, but still okay. St. Louis and Minnesota, and in 32 thoughts, the Florida Panthers were also mentioned.
Oh my
How much more do they need?
as a potential spot. It's so you have here's the Washington Capitals. They're looking for forwards. Here's the Leafs. They're trying to get rid of Nick Ritchie. No shit. Mm-hmm. And then, here's the Florida Panthers. They're inquiring about Claude Giroux because the Panthers just aren't stacked enough. I respect it, though.
I do.
I respect the fact that Colorado and Florida, two teams who are already cup favorites, are both being let's get that extra piece. We're going for it. It's kind of what the LA Rams just did, and they won a Super Bowl out of it.
Yeah, I really obviously, I'm a little torn on this with the teams that we mentioned. Colorado, I think I agree, probably is the ideal destination, and that would be awesome because, yes, please beat Vegas. But I'm really liking the Minnesota destination after what we just talked about with how Minnesota looks, what their situation is going to be like going into the next couple of years. As long as it doesn't cost them any future assets to get that retention and then, obviously have to ship someone out to get Giroux. Again, it could kind of be they want to make a splash this year, but definitely not the expense of hemorrhaging their future. So I would love it because Giroux in Minnesota would be pretty sweet, and that would give them a heck of a good chance in the playoffs. But yeah, if you went to Colorado, stack that team, kick the shit out of Vegas, please. Just don't let it be Vegas.
As much as Florida or Colorado, it raises their stock. If a St. Louis or a Minnesota gets Claude Giroux, it puts their names right up there. That conversation we just had about Minnesota being a dark horse, all of a sudden, LOL, no. I think if Claude Giroux goes to Minnesota, it makes that a 3-horse race between them, Colorado, and Vegas. That would be such an unbelievable
Giroux Kaprizov? Can you imagine that shit?
Oh my god.
Giroux is probably the most underrated kind of center, or I guess he plays a lot of wing.
He is. But that's the thing. He is a center though too. He has the second highest faceoff percentage behind Patrice Bergeron. They are the only two in the league over 60% right now.
Wow.
He's been so
I don't know
underrated.
If he
I love it.
I don't know if he was playing on the wing because he could and nobody else could, at least not as well as he did. But Claude Giroux is legitimately maybe the most underappreciated forward of the past decade.
Yeah.
He's in that conversation at the very least. And it's because he's been on Philadelphia, and Philadelphia hasn't done much, if not have been bad, and this season especially are hot trash.
He was just doomed by the time they forgot his name when they drafted him. He was doomed to this life of, who is this? What is this? But hey, it's going to work out for some team. They're going to get a hell of a player, and everyone's going to be like, holy shit, Claude Giroux can make a difference.
Speaking of making a difference, two other things I just noticed in 32 thoughts that I want to bring up to you guys. One's Shark-related, one Leafs-related. The Leafs-related one won't require much conversation. There is a player who played 87 games between the Leafs and the St. Louis Blues between 2015 and 2019 who would like to come back to the NHL. He's currently playing in the KHL, and right now, the playoffs start in the KHL right after the Olympics. That player looking to make an NHL return? Nikita Soshnikov. Very much on the list. Very much on the list of, oh yeah, that's right. The Leafs tried that when they sucked.
I just looked at that name right now. He's 28. He's playing with Omsk Avangard. Last year played with CSKA Moscow. All right. He's got 15 points in 22 games. Damn.
I encourage you all. There is a quiz. If you search 2017 Maple Leafs quiz, there's a roster quiz in regards to stats. Actually, this one might not be accurate. But basically, it's the idea of take a look at the 2017 Leafs and see how many times you're like, oh yeah, that's right, that guy played. We've talked about that on the show before with some of those Leafs rosters. Sin, the Sharks related one. We have talked about this player a ton. You already know who it's going to be because I just said that. Tomas Hertl has made it pretty clear to San Jose he wants term.
Ooh.
Yep, he's not going to get it. And he shouldn't. And they're going to trade him. And it's not to say that Tomas Hertl's not a great player. They cannot afford to give a guy with 2 separate knee injuries an 8-year deal.
Can't do it.
And I know it's going to hurt Sharks fans. I'll become an instant fucking fan of whatever team he goes to.
Just like you still root for Joe Pavelski in Dallas.
Exactly.
Who apparently they're looking at maybe keeping now because he's fucking incredible.
He's
surprise, surprise.
amazing. And yeah, Hertl, here's the thing. Sharks need to accept the fact that this is not a good team. We're going to be stuck with contracts. You're not going to be able to win. Trade Hertl, actually try to rebuild on the fly. Like, actually take steps to do it. All right, you don't want to trade Timo Meier, fine, but Hertl's, he's got to be gone. He's one of the better, obviously with Giroux there, it's kind of a 2 guys being targeted, but there's a lot of potential there to get a great return, and in a draft class that's this strong, we need another first. We need some more prospects. You need another first. I'm going to reiterate that. Like, absolutely, in this draft. I'm worried.
San Jose.
Because they love signing long-ass contracts.
Yeah. I mean, the Sharks right now, they have their first for the next 3 years. They're missing this year's second, thanks to the Aiden Hill trade, which...
It's not bad, but also Nedeljkovic went for a fucking third.
Yeah.
You just got the spy, Steve Eiserman. Oh man, Thrash is the best. That's the best cover ever.
Damn. With that, we move on to our final talking point of the day. We've been talking about trades. First and foremost, I want to talk about the Habs. Cole Caulfield, 2 goals in as many games under Martin St. Louis as head coach of the team. So, Cole Caulfield is back, Sin.
Yep.
How do you feel?
I feel terrific. He's, definitely I'm going to change him immediately to a high elite, change him back right now. High elite, guaranteed 40-goal guy just for 10 years straight. Guaranteed 40-goal guy.
Obviously, the big news for the Habs is that they traded away Tyler Toffoli, who was described as being the captain without the C in that locker room. He is on a deal that goes through next year at $4.25. The Calgary Flames have acquired him for forward Tyler Pitlick, noted Seattle Kraken legend Tyler Pitlick, who was taken in the expansion draft and immediately dealt. Prospect Emil Heineman, who is a Swede that was originally drafted by the Panthers, went to Calgary in the Sam Bennett deal and now is a Hab. A conditional first-round pick. It's top 10 protected. The Flames won't have a top 10 pick. And a 5th-round pick in 2023.
But it's a good thing they protected it.
Just to be safe.
Yep.
For the Montreal Canadiens, I think it's a good deal. I mean, you want to keep someone like Toffoli, much like Tomas Hertl. Good locker room guy. You could keep him around, and he's a great guy to have around. But at the same time, the value that you can get for him is more important than the value of him being there as a leader in the locker room to some of the younger guys, in my opinion, for where Montreal is right now at this stage. And especially because, again, that first-round pick is in limbo because of the Dvorak trade. With this, They have 3 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks. Like, this is a good little haul that the Habs have. We are still impending waiting on the Jeff Petrie trade potentially, which honestly might not happen until the offseason with how much he gets paid. There are some other assets that they can strip away. Ben Sherratt, who recently got hurt, somehow his name is constantly out there. It's like, oh man, we want Ben Sherratt. Lord knows I don't understand it. It's a good deal for the Habs. You get the pick. Pitlick can play this year. They now have 3 Pitlicks within their organization. And Emil Heineman is a complete question mark, but a former, I think, 41st overall pick, if I'm not mistaken. So it's an okay deal. They did pretty damn well. And like I said, they're at the position where Toffoli doesn't do much for them.
Is Heineman forward or defense? I missed that part.
Forward.
If he was defense, I'd be like, that could be really good. Second-round defenseman. We've seen them really pan out in a lot of ways.
Yeah, he is 20 years old, listed as a left winger, on cap friendly, playing for Lexans in the SHL this season, 16 points in 36 games with 11 goals. Not too bad for a 20-year-old forward.
Lexans is a good
league.
team too. Like, they also have noted former Maple Leaf, Kazimir Kaskasuo, played 1 game with them.
What a guy. So is he really there then, if he played 1 game?
I mean, like, he played 1 game with the Leafs. I mean, then again, there was the one game that they got absolutely fucking shelled, had no support. It was known as the game that got Mike Babcock fired.
And God bless him.
God bless
God
him.
bless Kazimir Kaskasuo.
Thank you,
for
Kazimir.
that.
I appreciate you.
For the Calgary Flames, I mentioned them earlier alongside Minnesota as a potential dark horse, which I do think they are now. They needed Tyler Toffoli to boost up that either bottom, top 6, if not middle 6. And apparently he's slotted in on cap friendly on the 3rd line with Dylan Dubé and Sean Monahan. Second line is Mangiapane, Backlund, Coleman. Top line, Goodrow, Lindholm, Kachuk. That is a very, very solid top 9 forward core. Their defense, I still think, is a little bit suspect. I'm sorry, but you're trusting Nikita Zadorov and Erica Branson as your 3rd pair. I get the physicality they bring. I'm just a little bit scared. But then they have Markstrom, who has a .927 save percentage and 8 shutouts on the year. Calgary, with Tyler Toffoli, immediately looks so much more dangerous. Yeah. And I put them right there with Minnesota as a dark horse, where if you had to say, okay, who's going to make it to the Western Conference or to the Stanley Cup Final as the Western Conference representative, you can't pick Colorado, you can't not pick Vegas. You're going with Minnesota or Calgary.
Yeah.
Those are the next 2 in line, unless you want to take an outside shot at somebody else.
Hard to disagree with that. Yeah. And Daryl Sutter's a good coach, so. And
there's the former LA King connection as well.
Oh yeah, Toffoli has
Oh yeah. There's a lot of guys who play together back in that lineup. There's a lot of guys playing together back in Calgary now. It's ridiculous. Get the band back together.
It's funny because people claim the Calgary Kings, but also Canucks fans. Like, there's so many former Canucks on the team too. They want to beat us so bad because of the likes of obviously Toffoli and Tanev and Markstrom.
Poor They're Canucks doing you, fans. But better. How do you feel?
So, yeah, it's not the most controversial trade in the world. Both teams look good at the end of this deal. There's not too much else to say about that. Both teams look pretty damn good. Mm-hmm. Boys, this was a fun show.
Yeah, it was.
I thought it was a good one.
Yeah, honestly.
Let's hope that this Friday we also still have some stuff to talk about. Obviously, we are getting that much closer to trade season, but again, the deadline is still a month away, so there's a long way to go. I still don't think we'll see, this crazy Marc-Andre Fleury amount of trades. You see, I tried to work flurry of trades into Marc-Andre Fleury. There's a lot that's still yet to be decided. There are a lot of horrible words, play on words and puns that you will hear from me over the next month, should you choose to listen to the show. But should you choose to do that, we thank you very, very much. You can follow Endo. Endo, tell everybody what you're doing on Twitch now.
Oh, okay. So this is actually really interesting. I talked about this earlier beforehand. Last episode of the podcast, I believe I talked about wanting to do something via Parsec. Parsec is a application that lets you connect to someone's PC to play games that usually played offline, but now online. It's really good to have a good connection. It's peer-to-peer, all that fun stuff. So what I've been doing is going back into old video games. After the announcement of the newest Super Mario Strikers game, Super Mario Strikers Battle League for the Switch is going to be coming out in the summer. So I decided to go back to, the roots of that series to see how things are and how things are going. Having a lot of fun. I think the other day I had Dubs, NHL streamer, join me like on stream to play the game, and it was awesome. So I figured right now I'm at the final cup of the game, of the main game, the Bowser Cup, and you have 9 games to play through. And I remember as a kid playing this series and doing an all-nighter, just playing the Bowser Cup with my cousins and just going through, all 4 of us just absolutely going crazy, going wild, close games, going to sudden death and all that. So I felt like the best opportunity to recreate those memories is to grab some of the friendos of mine, you guys included, obviously you're my friends and you're awesome, and just recreate that memory that I used to have. And so it's a series that I'm gonna probably do for other games as well, over on twitch.tv/endomills, and it's probably gonna be the first series that actually goes up on YouTube. Fingers crossed, 'cause I'm usually getting lazy with that kind of stuff. So if anyone in here wants to be interested in that, I have a post up on Twitter, again, twitter.com/endomills, or talking about how it's gonna work and how to get started with using Parsec and all that. I'm going to have it fully organized over the next few days, and we're going to have a big, massive stream just playing through the Bowser Cup. Yeah, so that's what I've been up to. It's a lot of work.
Sim for the win.
Yeah.
What's going on with you?
Oh, just the usual. Yeah, still on YouTube. You can still find me there, Sin for the Win Productions. You can follow me on Twitter. I post occasionally. But yeah, as I said last time I was here, I mean, I recently started the Nashville franchise mode, which is it's going great right now. Just had an incredible draft, and yeah, watch my shit.
You can of course find me everywhere at Tougie24, the YouTubes, the Twitch. Of course, we've been doing a bit of NHL roster editing because, again, they added that shoot pass slider. I'm almost done with the NHL, so there will be a new roster update for those of you on Series S and X by the end of the month, which I'm very excited for because, dude, you have guys like David Pastrnak, who EA had set to like a 7. He's now a 0 for me. He was like a 7. William Nylander went from like an 11 to a 3. So if you've ever wondered why guys like William Nylander and Matthew Tkachuk and dudes like that and David Pastrnak, why they were more playmakers rather than goal scorers, you're about to have a very fun time within franchise mode on the Series S and on the Series X.
Do you know how that affects like actual gameplay itself? Is it still representative or no?
It's more in the sim.
I would assume.
Oh.
Yeah. I would assume it matters not just for the sim, but in game as well. I would presume. I can't say with 100% certainty. I would presume. I
thought the gameplay AI would take over at that point, but I guess it is considered part of their attributes. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. So it's a weird one. Like I said, and the question is too. Of course, we saw that feature added in like October or November. It was November for created players, and then they added it for everyone else. So it's like, how long was this a hidden feature that we didn't have access to? How long was that there?
Probably a while. I mean, like.
It would explain, again, why certain guys struggled for no reason.
I mean,
no matter what attributes you gave them, certain dudes would not perform. It has to be because of that slider.
Yeah, I mean, the last time they had something big like that was, 13, when they switched all the names and different attributes for the players? Because I remember a little briefly about that. Like, way back in 13, they changed it up a little bit.
Worth noting as well, of course, on the Twitch side of things, we've been playing a lot of FIFA Pro Clubs with the fellas.
Oh, my God. You just want to wring like my neck and like Warrior's neck, I swear to God, because how we're playing.
It's a fun time, and of course, a lot of NCAA football 14. I almost said 13 because we used to play 13. We've been playing a lot of 14 revamped. That mod is insanity. Of course, that's going up on the secondary channel, TWOGIE24, for some of you that might not still somehow know that that's a thing. But with that, though, we will call it. Again, a big thank you to our friends at Manscaped. Use code Tougie at checkout for 20% off your order and free worldwide shipping. We will see you all this Friday. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.